In this video, we'll be covering the Mauryan Empire of Tamil Nadu NCERT. So let's start. Now, first, what are the sources for the study of the Mauryas? How we come to know about this empire? And so there are plenty of indigenous and foreign literary sources, epigraphical records which tell us about this empire. So let's start with the literary sources. Literary sources, the first one is Kautilya's Arthashastra. This book, Arthashastra, is written by Kautilya, who is also known as Chanakya, Vishnugopa, etc. Now, this Arthashastra is in which language? It's in Sanskrit. And Kautilya was known as Indian Machiavelli. And this manuscript of the Arthashastra, this was first discovered by R. Sham Sastri in 1904. So this Arthashastra was first discovered in 1904, and then this Arthashastra, it contains 15 books and 180 chapters, and this whole book means this whole compilation of 15 books is divided into three parts. The first part deals with this king and his council and various departments of the government. Second part deals with this civil and criminal law, that is the we can categorize the judicial part. And the third one, which deals with the diplomacy and war, which can be categorized as the external affairs. Then we have discussed the first literary source, that is Kautilya's Arthashastra. In which language? Sanskrit. Moving to the next is Vishakha Datta's Mudra Rakshas. And this Vishakha Datta's Mudra Rakshas was written during the Gupta period. It's the drama in the Sanskrit, and it was written during the Gupta period. It describes that how Chandragupta Maurya, with the assistance of the Kautilya, defeated the last ruler of the that Nanda dynasty, Dhananand, and overthrew the Nandas and established this Mauryan empire. So the picture, and this book depicts the picture of socio-economic condition, what exactly was the socio-economic condition under the Mauryas. Then this very much important Megasthenes Indica. Megasthenes was the Greek ambassador in the Chandragupta Maurya court who was sent by the Seleucus Nicator. And this Megasthenes Indica book survived in various fragments. Now this book details about Mauryan administration, the administration of the Patliputra, which was the capital city, and the military organization. So this book gives information about the Mauryan administration, and that Arthashastra about the political information of that Mauryan empire. It gives the political information. Now, next, this other sources or other literary sources like Puranas, the Buddhist literature like Jataka stories, etc., which gives information about these Mauryas, and the Sinhalese chronicles, also known as Sinhalese chronicles, Deepavamsa and Mahavamsa. They also tell us or give some information about this Mauryan empire, and the major sources were these: Megasthenes, Vishakha Datta's Mudra Rakshas, and this Kautilya's Arthashastra. Then we are done the literary sources. Now we have some archaeological sources. Basically, this refers to the edicts of the Ashoka. So, archaeological sources, first is edicts of Ashoka. Now, this inscriptions of the Ashoka, it was first deciphered by James Princip in 1837. These edicts were written in both Pali as well as the Prakrit language, and various methods of writing were employed in it, or like Brahmi script, Kharosti script, etc. Now the example of the Kharosti script is that Shahbaz Gari inscription. That inscription is written in the Kharosti script. Now this Brahmi script was used, and this Kharosti script was basically used or deployed in that northwestern region of the Indian subcontinent, or at that time the Ashokan's empire. There are 14 major rock edicts. We'll be dealing with them one by one. Not all, the majorly the important one. And there are two Kalinga edicts. And the major pillar edicts are there in the important cities. And it's not that much important. So moving to the next. 13th rock edict is very much important, which gives detail about this Kalinga empire. That Ashoka was in war with the Kaling. So that and Ashoka defeated and conquered the Kalinga Empire. And this is described, or the detail about this war is given in this 13th Rock Edict. And after this Kalinga war, he adopted this Dhamma, that he started spreading Dhamma and conquering the territory by using this method of Dhamma rather than the war. Then this seventh pillar edict, his summary of which tell us about his efforts to promote the dhamma within his kingdom. Now, one more fact I would like to mention here, that is the Rock Edict second as well as the Rock Edict 13th, like this one, 13th Rock Edict and the second Rock Edict tells us about the Sangam kingdom of the Chola, Pandya, Keral Putra, etc. So we come to know that below the Ashokan Empire, there existed this Sangam kingdom. So that Chola, Pandya, Cheras, etc., they were not the part of the Ashokan Empire. Moving to the next, we are moving to the political history, and after the completion of this political history we'll be doing modern administration. So the first is political history of Mauryas. So the first king was this Chandragupta Maurya, who followed the aggressive expansion policy, and he was known as Sandrocotus and sometimes Androcotus also. So he was William Jones recognized him as Sandrocotus, and the Arian and Plutarch also described him as Androcotus. So moving to the next, he was the founder of the empire, the first king of this Mauryan empire, and he captured the Patliputra from the last ruler of Nanda dynasty, Dhananand, at the age of 25 with and he was assisted in this activity by Kautilya, Chanakya or the Vishnugupta. These all are the names of this Kautilya. Then what after capturing this Patra, he moved northwest and he subdued the territories up to Indus. There he met this Seleucus Nicator and he fought with him and captured the territory there. So he moved northwest and he subdued the territories up to Indus. Then he moved to central India where he captured the region up to the north of the Narmada Empire. So these details of these first and the second statement both gives us information about the empire of the Chandragupta Maurya. Now it was in the year 305 BC when he marched against the Seleucus Nicator, who was the Alexander's general controlling that northwest India, and the Seleucus Nicator was defeated and he signed a treaty with the Chandragupta Maurya where he agreed to cede the territories of this to cede this trans-Indus territories to the Mauryas like Arya, Arakosia, Gedrosia, and also Seleucus Nicator gave his daughter in marriage to this Mauryan prince. And in return, what Chandragupta Maurya gave him? Gift 100 elephants. And then Megasthenes was also sent as a Greek ambassador to Chandragupta Maurya. And this Megasthenes was sent by Seleucus Nicator, which I told few minutes before. Now, Chandragupta Maurya adopted Jainism, not Buddhism or that Ajivika. He embraced Jainism towards the end of his life and he moved to Shravanbelgola in the Karnataka, and there he performed Sallekkhana and died. If we see this map, we can get to know about this extension of his empire. Like Narmada was the southward point, or we can say the southward part of southern part of his empire. This Kashmir and Nepal, and this Afghanistan the western one, and the Bengal and Assam the eastern one. Now it was under this Mauryas that for the first time the political unity was achieved in India. Before that the kingdoms were in fragments, or not political unity was not very much maintained. Then one more fact, like we talked about the Kautilya's Arthashastra. There is a Saptang theory in that Kautilya's Arthashastra, and he introduced that theory in his book. And Saptanga theory, there are 7 elements. This question was asked, so you must know that the Saptanga theory is a part of that Kautilya's Arthashastra. The next ruler, Bindusar. Bindusar, he was called by the Greeks as Amitraghat, the slayer of enemies. Chandragupta Maurya was known as Sandrocotus, Androcotus, and Bindusar was known as Amitraghat, slayer of enemies. Now, we just talked about that Chandragupta Maurya captured the region up to Narmada. That is, he captured that means his kingdom was up to he covered the Gujarat, the Malwa region, and that up to the north of the Narmada. If we see here Bindusara, he conquered the Deccan up to Mysore, and which included almost whole of India except the Cholas, Cheras, Pandyas wala kingdom. So he conquered up to Deccan, or conquered the Deccan up to this Mysore region. Now, the Tibetan monk Taranatha states that Bindusara conquered 16 states comprising of land between the two seas. Now, if we see the ambassador, who was the ambassador in the Chandragupta Maurya? It was the Megastheni, and he was sent by the Seleucus Nicator. And in the Bindusara kingdom, the Demicus was the ambassador who was sent by the king Antiochus first. Now, uh, Bindusara wrote to Antiochus first and demanded sweet wine, dried figs, sophist. Antiochus first sent all except the sophist because Greek law prohibited sending a sophist. Now, Bindusara supported Ajivikas, and he died even before the war took place between his sons Ashoka and Sushima. Now, he appointed Ashoka as the governor of Ujjain, who later became the Ashoka the Great, the next ruler of this Mauryan Empire. So, moving to the next, Ashoka the Great. He was the first to issue inscriptions mostly in the Prakrit language, in the Pali language also, and Brahmi, and he used this Brahmi script and Kharosti script in his inscriptions. And he basically used this Kharosti script in the northwestern region. He was the governor of Ujjain when Bindusara was ruling, and after that he became the king, or he became the successor of the Bindusara. Then, he was the governor of Ujjain. He also suppressed the revolt in the Takshila during this Bindusara's reign. Now, why there is an interval between the Ashoka's accession to throne and his actual coronation? Because he was in struggle for this throne with his brothers. So there existed a 4 years of interval between his accession to throne in 273 BC and his actual coronation in 269 BC. Now, this Ceylonese chronicles, Deepavamsa Mahavamsa, stated, like I told in the beginning, that these Ceylonese chronicles or these Deepavamsa and Mahavamsa, these were basically the literary sources which tell us some information about the Mauryan Empire. So here we are seeing this next information here. That's Ashoka captured the power after killing his 99 brothers, including elder brother Sushima. Youngest brother was spared Tis, but as per the Taranatha of the Tibet, Ashoka killed only 6 of his brothers. So these are the various sources, various information which differs with each other. So we have to know about both the sources. Next, this most important event was this victorious war with the Kalinga in 261 BC. This year is very much important because it's after this 261 BC that Ashoka moved towards Dhamma, and he embraced Buddhism under the influence of the Buddhist monk Upagupta. Now, this Aramaic and Greek scripts were also used in the Afghanistan for inscriptions. Now we'll see Ashoka and Buddhism. Ashoka's conversion to Buddhism, it was not very immediate, it was a gradual one. It was a slow transformation. Approximately 261 BC, that is after this Kalinga war, Ashoka became a Sakya Upasaka lay disciple. So if we see, he was coronated in 269 BC, and he about 261 BC, after this Kalinga war, he became a Sakya Upasaka lay disciple, and after 2.5 years he became a bhikshu or a monk. Now he gave up hunting. He visited Bodh Gaya and organized various missions to spread Dhamma. He also appointed the special officers Dhamma Mahamatras to speed up the progress of spreading the Dhamma to across all the regions. Then after 20 years, that is 241 BC, so 261 BC, he embraced Buddhism, he converted to Buddhism and started spreading Dhamma. He became a disciple or a monk. Then in 241 BC, after 20 years, he visited the birthplace of Buddha, the Lumbini garden near Kapilavastu. He visited other Buddhist places also like Sarnath, Shravasti, Kushinar, etc. He even sent missions to Sri Lanka under his son and daughter Mahendra and Sanghamitra, and basically to spread the Dhamma, and his son and daughter planted there the branch of the original Bodhi tree. Now, he convened the third Buddhist council at Patliputra in 240 BC, and which was presided by Mogliput. So the third Buddhist council was convened at Patliputra in 240 BC. He constructed 4 caves in Barabar Hills for the Ajivikas. So he supported also this Ajivika sect. He was very much tolerant towards different religions, means it doesn't mean that he believed in Buddhism and Hinduism then he was against the other religion. He was not against other religion, he was very much tolerant towards and respected each another religion. I would like to quote one of the phrase which was stated by the Ashoka: whosoever praises his religious sect or blames other sects out of excessive devotion to his own sect with the view of glorifying his own sect, he rather injures his own sect very severely. So, this shows that he was very much tolerant towards the different religion, and he advised this phrase to his subjects through an inscription. Now next, the extent of the Ashoka's empire. So this we come to know about this Ashoka's empire from the Rock Edict II as well as Rock Edict 13th, which tells us that the Sangam kingdom were the southernmost, means the neighbors of the Ashokan empire. So the southernmost kingdoms, Cholas, Pandyas, etc., they were the border states. These remained outside the Mauryan kingdom, and this information is given by the second and the 13th Rock Edict. Now, according to Raj Tarangani, Kashmir was the part of the Mauryan Empire. Nepal was also included. Northwestern boundary was already demarcated by the Mauryas, Chandragupta Maurya. Then if we see the Maski, Maski is a town in the Karnataka where it's basically the first edict of the Ashoka where the name Ashoka is written, while in rest of the places wherever we find this inscriptions of this Ashoka, the name for the Ashoka is Devanam Priya, which name is written everywhere, not Ashoka. But there are few regions like Gurjara, Maski, etc., two more places, so there the name Ashoka is written. So Maski is a place which is there in Karnataka where the name Ashoka is written instead of Devanam Priya Priyadasi. Now we'll see about this Ashoka's Dhamma. Now we had studied in the Buddhism that the aim was to attain the nirvana, but here the goal was not nirvana but to maintain the social order. So it was basically a code of conduct, we can say the ethical code of conduct, his dhamma, or his we can say policy of dhamma. So he embraced Buddhism and he took efforts to spread it, but his policy of dhamma was a broad concept. It was a way of life, it was a social order, a code of conduct, a set of principles which one must follow to live a very peaceful and a ethical life. And these policies or his dhamma was clearly stated in his edicts. Now first we'll see its features. The first one, service to father and service to mother, that is service to father and mother, practice of ahimsa, that is non-violence, love for truth, reverence to teachers, good treatment of relatives. In all, it is he wanted to convey the message that you should respect your parents, practice non-violence, you should follow the truthful path, you should respect your teachers and have a good relations with your relatives, give them a good respect, a treatment. Then the second message, that he prohibited the animal sacrifices. He also prohibited festive gatherings, avoided expensive, meaningless ceremonies and rituals. Then um, he maintained the constant contact with the people through the system of dharma yatras, means he conducted dharma yatras and he maintained this contact with the people, and he organized the administration in the direction of social welfare, means he promoted social welfare. He suggested that the servants must be treated in a very good manner by the masters, it means there should be the humane treatment of the servants, and also prisoners by the government officials. You can read the rest of the points, means basically the message was this, that there should be the tolerance for all the religions and everyone should live in a friendly way, should respect each other. Now, this concept of non-violence and similar ideas of Ashoka Dhamma was identical with the teachings of the Buddha, but he didn't equate Dhamma with the Buddhist teachings. He stated that his Dhamma, this policy of Dhamma was very much different with that of the Buddhist teaching. So remember, he embraced Buddhism, but his Dhamma was very much different than that of the Buddhism. Dhamma was basically a code of conduct, a moral, we can say moral value or the ethical value which one must follow in his life. And Buddhism was his personal belief. His Dhamma was this is just a repetition. So moving to the next. Ashoka, few fact about Ashoka. He was the greatest of kings, surpassing even the Alexander and the Julius Caesar. He was true to his ideals. He is not a dreamer, but a man of practical genius. The central idea was basically to promote the welfare of humanity, that is social welfare, to promote social welfare. He is known for benevolent administration, and that too after that Kalinga war, okay, and his policy of non-aggression even after his victory in the war. And this policy of non-aggression was only after the Kalinga war, when he converted to Buddhism, or when he embraced Buddhism and moved towards this Dhamma. He also gave gift to non-Buddhist, even anti-Buddhist, which shows his tolerance towards other religion. He never abolished capital punishment, means capital punishment was there. If we see the later Mauryas, some information about later Mauryas, because we are studying the political history of the Mauryas. So his death took place in 232 BC, and which led to division in the Mauryan Empire, and it was divided in two parts, the western and the eastern. Western was ruled by his son Kunal, and eastern was ruled by his grandson Dashrath. Now, there was the Bactrian invasion in the western part, and due to Bactrian invasion, the western part of the empire collapsed. And what about the eastern empire? It was under the Samprati, the successor of Dashrath. Brihadrath was the last Mauryan king who was assassinated by the Pushyamitra Sunga of the Shunga dynasty. And we get this information from one of the literary source, that is the Bana Bhatta's Harshcharita. So one fact I would like to tell here, that the only pillar on which Ashoka declares himself as the emperor of Magध is the Bhabru pillar inscription. And one more, that this Kangahalli Buddha Stoop is there in the Karnataka, and there is a portrait of Ashoka along with his wife, and below that the Ranya Ashoka is written. So in the next video we'll be doing that Mauryan administration. We did today the political history of the Mauryas. So if you find this video helpful, do like and subscribe. Thank you.